Hey everybody, it's Delicia and thanks for tuning into the Cigar Vixen channel. So today I'm very excited, as usual, to be reviewing and smoking and hanging out with all of you. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Menelik. This is a special cigar that was put out by Foundation Cigars or Nick Melillo. You guys are probably very familiar with him. I've talked about him often. I've told you my stories about how when I was new to the industry, he was one of the first people that, I had a chance to pick his brain. I met him at a cigar party and didn't know who he was. He had never heard of me, obviously. I was brand new on the scene. This was many years ago. In fact, he was still working at Drew Estate at that time. And then obviously there's been a lot of change since then, and he's gone on to start an incredible company, Foundation Cigars. They are just doing an amazing job. He is chief of the broadleaf. He's a mastermind in blending and in music, and just a really humble, down-to-earth person that I'm, again, honored to consider a friend of mine. I do bother him from time to time to ask him cigar-related questions. And anywho, back to the cigar. This one was given to me during IPCPR when I had a chance to catch up with Nick. And speaking of IPCPR, you guys are probably wondering why I have not put out the IPCPR video. Well, it's taking me some time because sadly, I went out prior to the show and I purchased 2 new microphones, a whole new microphone setup in the attempts to capture better audio on my interviews that I conduct during the show. And sadly, I had this amazing interview that I did with Nick, and unfortunately there was a little mishap with, I don't know exactly what happened, but something with the plug on the camera part. It didn't capture it. It was very low, like you can't even hear it. You can barely make out what we're saying, and I didn't catch it at the time until I got back and was watching it, and it was like, I can't go back and redo it. I could try to do some voiceover, but again, I'm super bummed out. It's a waste of everybody's time, when that happens. And unfortunately, I just, live and learn. But we try to do the mic checks and all those things, and sometimes it still happens anyway. So unfortunately, that's what happened with that particular interview, and there was a few others on there, but that's why I haven't put out the video yet. But I'll still put a little clip in here so you can kind of get a feel for the booth, because it's always so much fun to visit, the Foundation Cigar booth. This time he had local artists that were out there, with different pieces from Nicaragua that were showcasing this beautiful artwork that they do. He just does so much to give back to the community. And again, what I really enjoy, other than smoking the fantastic sticks that he blends, is the fact that he puts so much thought into telling a story about each cigar, with the name, with the presentation, with the artwork on the band, on the box. And he goes and does most of that with local people, from, I want to say predominantly all from Nicaragua, but just the different boxes, the different bands, and just the thought, again, that goes behind all the different names. And it's very intricate. In fact, I invite you all to take a look at the website, because the website itself is beautiful. He does a great job. There's some really cool videos. There's a time-lapse video that he put out recently. It's a 2-year time-lapse showing the whole process of, from the seed all the way to the finished product, and it's a really neat video. So again, check out Foundation Cigar Company, their website, and watch the video. There's also a cool music video. Again, I mentioned Nick is a huge music fan, but now for that super long intro, let me focus back on the cigar. This is what happens. I start to get sidetracked. But Menelik. So you're probably familiar with the Tabernacle cigar if you follow Foundation Cigars and Nick's different blends that he puts out. So the Tabernacle is a phenomenal stick and has a rich history behind it. Of course, the Tabernacle is the container for the Ark of the Covenant, and the actual artwork on it is a picture of Haile Selassie, who's the 225th king of Abyssinia, who has ties, if you tie, far enough back, to King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Why is that relevant to the cigar? Well, Menelik is actually said to be the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. So really cool history. He went on to become the first Solomonic king of Ethiopia. And again, just a really cool history. And I love, again, I'm a history buff, so I love anything that has a whole story, and there's just, it's an incredible thing. So again, back to the cigar. This particular one was released originally as an event only stick that you couldn't even buy. You just had to maybe, you know, catch Nick at an event and hope that he would gift you a cigar, this particular cigar. Now it's actually available in limited amounts, but it's a regular production. So limited to, I believe it's 1,000 boxes a quarter, but it's still a regular production. So it is featuring a very beautiful and flavorful San Andres wrapper. It has a Jalapa Corojo binder and then Nicaraguan filler from Esteli, Condega, and Jalapa. And let's go ahead and just get right into it. Love the Mexican San Andres wrapper. Huge fan of that. Has a nice little pigtail. So I'm going to use my little cigar knife cutter here. So the cold draw has a little bit of kind of a red licorice little feel to it. The sweetness, there's also a hint of a red pepper, but very subtle. You just kind of taste it. Almost more like, I take that back, not red pepper, almost like a paprika flavor to it. Just a little bit on the cold draw. It's a box press. I forgot to mention that in case you didn't notice. I tend to get sidetracked as normal when I'm sitting here. I feel like I'm sitting here live talking to all you people that are watching. So I appreciate you guys, you know, bearing with me as I start to ramble on random thoughts. But I do feel like we've become friends over the years. So, and I do thank you all for tuning in and hanging out while I do my little rambles, and I do my best to depict to you the flavors and whatnot about the cigars that I'm smoking. And that lights up just beautifully. Look at that. That's beautiful. That's great. I can already tell. First puff, tremendous flavor. Again, I'm not surprised. I would expect nothing less from anything that Nick's making. I guess I'm a little biased, but it's an honest biased opinion, I guess you could say, because I think anyone that smoked his cigars would agree that they're great. I mean, he does a fantastic job in blending, and not just in blending, but selecting the tobacco itself. He is a tobacco nerd, more so than myself. He's the person that's there getting his hands dirty, watching the whole process, very involved in the overall process of, again, from the seed to, you know, final stage of the cigar, and then of course smoking it. And it really does come through in the different cigars that he produces. So yeah, this is very good. So very rich on the flavors. Red pepper, but it's not a spicy feel. It's just kind of the flavor of it, like as if you were cooking with it, you could taste it, but it's not giving that spicy lingering sometimes that pepper can do. It's just the flavor of it, kind of mixed with, I haven't figured out the other spices, but I can tell that there's some different spices that are mixed in. Definitely has that anise and a little bit of a dusted kind of a cacao powder. So really nice. But again, very rich. I mean, you can feel this cigar coating your entire palate. Tremendous aroma, very inviting, really, really nice. And yeah, this This cigar, I'm trying to think of just offhand. I mean, I tend to pair a lot of my cigars with coffee just naturally throughout the day, whether I'm having a morning cigar or afternoon. Usually more so I enjoy the afternoon to have a nice cup of coffee, you know, and a great stick to accompany it. This one would go exceptionally well. Man, you could put this with a variety of different coffee beans. I would say just offhand, I would put it with a Guatemalan. I would also, it would be interesting to pair this with an Ethiopian, like a Yirgacheffe. I feel like the bright flavors from that particular coffee would be interesting to see how they fared up against these really rich and deep, complex flavors. So I'll actually have to try that next time. But anyway, you could probably put this even with, you know, a nice aged bourbon, perhaps. That would be, you know, my particular go-tos anyways for the pairings on this particular stick. But I'm going to go ahead and continue to smoke this, of course, and I will be checking back in and hopefully not rambling on so much, but I will check in for the second third. So coming in about the second third or so, almost at the halfway point on the Menelik. Flavors are really, really good, reminding me of the Mexican chocolate, like the abuelita's, you know, old school that you break in the milk and you mix it up. It kind of has that, but with a little bit of spice added to it. So it's kind of, I guess maybe more along the lines of like a Mayan chocolate that has the pressed cacao, little bit of the sweetness like from sugar, and then a little bit of like a red chili pepper, like a dry, almost like an ancho chile, like a red pepper, red chili pepper kind of a thing. So it has some of those elements, still has a nice earthy undertone to it, but really enjoyable. It's probably right up, to me, it's a medium, not quite full as far as the strength. So just a nice medium, but a nice amount of flavor to it. Very rich and beautiful aroma, and it's smoking very nicely, putting out again a nice amount of smoke and just a really nice flavor profile. So I'm going to continue to smoke it down a little bit more, of course, and I will check back in for the final third. Welp, another hit for Foundation cigars. Really good all the way throughout. I mean, I still have a little bit left that I'll continue to smoke until it starts to burn my fingers, but definitely a worthwhile smoke. If you can find it, hopefully you can get your hands on it. Again, limited runs of 1,000 boxes per quarter is how you can expect to find these cigars, but they should be available in most brick and mortars that carry the Foundation cigar line. But definitely, like I said, another hit. Really great flavor, lots of deep, rich flavors. Towards this last part, picking up a little bit of like an aged leather, still getting the dark chocolate notes, the dusted cacao bean, if you will, and that nice spiciness, spice flavors rather. So red pepper, not so much on the black peppers, but definitely gets that, just that hint of the red pepper coming through pretty much throughout the entire stick. Hints of anise kind of throughout, off and on, but certainly a very well made, well blended. You can tell it has really high end tobacco in it, so really nice selection. Of course, I would expect nothing less from anything coming out of Nick's hands. Just really great job again. And as I mentioned, I would highly recommend that you guys try it. And if you have smoked it already, if you were lucky enough to grab one, you know, at any event that you may have attended with Nick, I'd love to hear your thoughts and your feedback, or if you plan on smoking it. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and thank you so much for subscribing, and be sure to follow on Instagram as well. And again, I look forward to seeing you next time, and thanks for hanging out for a little bit. Cheers.